Hi guys, welcome to Who Are We, the podcast where you get to meet the we of We Carry Kevan. I'm your host, Kevan Chandler, and I want to introduce you to some of my friends. As Randall takes over carrying me, he also steps in as host to ask Aedan and me some pretty hard-hitting questions. Lake Trail, I guess that's what we've been on. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That Gainer Ridge is where our family always goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you bird around here? That's a weird verb. Bird.
Yeah.
To bird or not to bird?
Yeah, it's usually around the lake. That's where I can see a lot of stuff.
Nice.
But you can kind of go anywhere, any parks. If you're early enough or late on, and if you spend enough time, you can usually see something cool.
Awesome. So, Randall, you were saying Ephesians 2.
Well,
is that right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I just remember, actually, it makes me think of that Bonhoeffer book again. I'm just remembering.
Oh, no.
Oh, are you okay?
Whoa.
Okay.
Got hit in the head by a fallen branch.
Are you okay?
You're okay?
Wow, I'm sorry.
Oh, honey. Okay.
These trees are tall. That fell quite a ways. Yeah, if the question is why do these friendship conversations always end up on Jesus, it's because, man, like without him, they aren't worth talking about. They aren't the kind of relationships that you would want to have a podcast about.
Yeah.
Because for me, when I think back to relationships that have been hard and where there's been trouble, it's been when I've forgotten that part of my role in my relationship is to be loving the other person and pointing them towards Christ by my love for them. And so often, friendship, we forget that, or it's easy to forget that, especially when just learning how to be a person as you grow. Seek out friendships for what you can gain from them rather than from what you can give to them.
Yeah.
And the only way I know to be motivated to experience friendship that way is through Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that's how he approaches me. So.
And look, like the fact that most of the Gospels is Jesus with his friends.
Yeah.
And being surrounded
A
by
great
his friends
example
and
there, right?
loving his neighbor in that way. It's hard. You can't really remove it from the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, kind of with that and what we've been talking about with, I feel like we've talked about so much. I'm trying to think of which part to run with, because I love this idea of pointing out things that drawing things out of a person, encouraging those good things that the Lord has put in them. And also, we've been talking a lot about kids, being friends with kids in a way, and that transition into adulthood. Because I think also, maybe bringing all of this together is, Randall, the reason you got to see Aedan transition into a man and a peer of yours is because of the sustainability of your friendship and the sustainability of the friendship between your families, right?
Yeah. His daddy.
Yeah.
Because
his
of Jesus,
papa.
right? Yeah. And so it ties together that because you have loved one another well as a family, you've had the longevity to see Aedan literally, physically grow in age and grow up to be a peer of yours. I think that's something that we get to celebrate when we have. I mean, sure, life happens and friends come and go, but some of that is because we can't help it, of moving and jobs and whatnot. But even then, and especially in the world we live in now, you can still keep in touch. And so yeah, I think, I don't know, maybe we talk about that for a second, of the longevity of a sustainable friendship that we can find in when Christ is at the center and when it's selfless, as we, I guess maybe we've been saying that without using that word.
Well, I know that his dad is one of the handful of people in my life that I've experienced that sense of seeing me and calling me to the best parts of me. There's, you know, I think that's pretty rare. I think there's probably, I can think of a couple people in my life as mentors, maybe two, that I can look to that say, or I can see how their love for me wasn't it wasn't colored by anything but just love for me. And so out of that genuineness, they had the freedom to speak, and I believed it. And then there's a handful of peers in my life that have that kind of where we experience that kind of freedom, where you have been loved by that person, and so that you can trust their vision for you.
And they get to see you grow, and you get to see them grow as a result. And how cool is it that we actually get to be participants in people's growth as friends.
And I think that because the gospel is always calling us to die and to think less of ourselves, it's built to be able for friendships to deepen. Because no one is any better than anyone else. You may be further down the path, but we're all sinners falling short of the glory of God, and also fully forgiven, redeemed sons, daughters, and heirs to the kingdom. So we celebrate that. Like part of the way we celebrate that is by, in that safety of that context, being able to rejoice or grieve or work together.
And I think something that you said there, of like some of us may be further down the road or further along than others, and even that can be broken down into, you know, I may be further along in some respects than Aedan, and he's further along in others than I am. And,
right.
And same with you. And so we get to see one another grow in different aspects of our lives at all times, and can encourage and offer to each other. Which is just, I know I'm kind of hung up on the adventure of participating in that.
You know what I want to know about is that there's, from my perspective, between the two of you, there's two newlyweds in this threesome.
That's true.
And being married is a whole other kind of friendship. And so I'd love to hear from you guys what you're learning about friendship and with this new whole way of being in life, where you're sharing everything and loving someone more than yourself, called to it every minute. I'd love to hear you guys talk about that a little bit.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to
Man.
Pressure's on, Kevin, because your bride
I'll start.
is 6 feet in
Yeah,
front
I
of
know,
us.
she's right in front of us. If people are watching and they're like, why does Kevin keep looking at us? It's because Katie's right behind the camera, so I keep winking at the audience. So in our premarital counseling, we the couple they were kind of mentoring us through getting ready to be married, and one of them said, you now have a full-time witness to your life. Like you have someone who is always there and sees and knows you, not just better than anyone, but knows you in a different way than anyone else, because they are sharing your life just as much as you are having your own life, you know? And that comes with a lot of different facets where there's accountability in the sense that they can call you out, but there's also accountability in the sense of you kind of catch yourself before,
Because you
before
want
doing,
to do right by them.
right, exactly. And you're kind of, they are your mirror, like they're your sounding board, sometimes even without words, just by being present with you. And that's, you know, that's been huge for me. I've found myself growing as a person, I hope, because there are decisions that I make either specifically for Katie's sake or because I know she's watching me and she is, you know, she's waiting for me to make that decision, and so I get to put it through that filter. But it's also, you know, you just use the phrase of, I think you said, like, it's people that you get to...
Sit down for a second here.
Oh, yeah, sure. Can you put the kickstand out back there? People that you get to laugh with and cry with and process with and everything. Yeah. Nice. All right. And that's good. Yeah, perfect. Katie gets to be all of that, or I should say, I get to have that in Katie at all times. And there have been moments where I've had thoughts that if anyone else was around, I would not have shared, for fear of rejection or fear of you know, a correction that's harsher than it needs to be, maybe, or you know, just all kinds of fears of judgment. And I have allowed myself to voice those thoughts to her, and it's come with grace, you know. And so as a result, I get to walk through those thoughts rather than just keeping them in myself. And when I make mistakes and do really dumb stuff, almost on a daily basis, she's shaking her head. But when I do dumb things and I make the wrong decision, you know, again, there's grace, and so I get to learn from those things rather than live in shame and fear of messing those things up again. I can safely say, for the most part, there's always going to be a learning curve, but in marriage, like when I've done something wrong, so far I haven't done those things again, for the most part, because
That's
there's
impressive.
well, thanks, but it's because of her, because we get to learn it together, and then I have this witness that, you know, when I see her, I remember, oh, I did this wrong last time. I know how to do it right this time. You know, and we actually do, again, going back to attachment, we do a lot of redos. She's really kind to to let me actually redo something,
You do it for
including
me too.
including like going in the other room and coming back and reenacting.
Let's start that again.
Yeah, let's try that again.
Yeah.
You know, and
That's a wonderful strategy.
so I think having that witness, who is so graceful and kind, reciprocally, is that a word? Reciprocally?
Sure. Why not?
is one of the greatest joys that I'm experiencing in marriage.
Man,
Aiden, your
good.
turn.
that'll preach. Yeah. All right, let's
I'm gonna have some water before we go.
Okay.
If that's okay. Oh, we're allowed water. Never mind. I'm gonna swallow my own spit, and we're gonna keep going. You're good. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So we can
good?
get up if you're ready.
Yep.
So just kind of give them a little bit of
Yeah.
stability back there.
1, 2, 3.
All right, you good?
Yeah, all set.
Cool.
I feel like Kevan said most of what I would say. I would like along the same lines as a lot of things that our pastor talked to us about was how, you know, marriage is a unique kind of ministry to each other, and it's definitely been the case of like, you know, it's an opportunity to minister to Nat, and it's been like such a joy to get to do that, and also her ministering to me constantly, you know, like it being a daily thing. So it's just been a huge blessing. I'm so thankful for it. But
Yeah. Do you find like a depth with like in a new depth in your identity that you have that responsibility to minister to her, like in a 24/7 kind of sense?
Because it like it there's a level of, you know, obviously a level of commitment that it makes the relationship like deepen incredibly, and a new way of seeing, you know, the gospel too, like, and the picture of Jesus and his bride, you know. So it would be a resounding yes to that question. But
Yeah.
It certainly raises the stakes
We can
Yeah.
keep
for
going.
your faith,
yeah,
because the ramifications of your faithlessness in any season
yeah,
isn't just felt by you.
yeah, right,
Yeah. As a single person, you could like go and lock your door and curl up and be like, I'm garbage. and now it's like, oh no, I have to man up and
Right.
and serve and
yeah,
Well, and like at the core of that is remember what's true.
yeah,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's because of course you're not garbage, and
Right.
and when we, you know, lapse into whatever it is, whether it's self-pity or insecurity of any kind, or pride, all of it. When we see our beloved and the calling that we have to love them more than ourselves, then it raises the stakes that we see ourselves clearly
yeah,
as the Lord sees us, so that then we're filled and healthy to be able to then go love
yeah,
our spouse.
Well, and like Aedan said as well, like Nat is also ministering to him, you know, and Katie does that for me of,
Yeah.
you know, reminding me of the truth.
Yeah.
Because I need constant reminders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What about? I mean, you kind of said it all there, Randall, but anything from a not newlywed?
Oh, yeah, so we will celebrate our 25th
Hey.
wedding anniversary
Wow.
in 3 months, in January. And yeah, I mean, the sweet thing about having Jesus at the center of your marriage is that, like, there's always a safe place to land from anywhere you've gone. Like, no matter how you've fought, or no matter what lies you have been believing, or what damage you've done or how badly I handle a parenting situation, or something with extended family, all of it. When Jesus is at the center of the marriage, everybody is humbled by the truth of who we are in Christ. So, and I think just like a tree growing gets stronger and the roots go deeper when you're married, and you continue to nourish yourself with that truth. If I can extend the metaphor to, if that's the soil that you're growing in, then boy, it makes you strong.
Yeah.
And so that's been our experience.
You are the one with children.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm weak. Never mind.
Well, yeah. So I mean,
I think.
yeah. How do kids play into
I
that?
think maybe a strong marriage is just remembering how weak you are is essential to a strong marriage, because you're always having to ask for forgiveness, and you're always having to forgive, and so having that sense of humility, with how unworthily loved you are in Christ, is just constantly essential context.
Yeah.
And with parenting, it's the same way. Like, I tell my kids that my decision making for their parent, for how I decide what rules we have, they have to go by them, because God made me their parent, and I don't have to apologize for it or even explain it. And I don't even have to be sure that it's right. They like to argue about the rules, and I say, yeah, you know what, you might be right, but this is just how it is.
Yeah.
I'm the dad, so you have to obey. And I find so much comfort in constantly going back to how the Lord parents me, and there's Scripture never changes. You know, it's always the same. And value others above yourselves never stops being hard.
Yeah.
And I can not like it, and I'm free to not like it. I'm free to not do it. But it stays the same. And at the same time, His grace and His forgiveness is ever present and everlasting and always available and overflowing. And so I try to remember how the Lord is with me and how I have parented our kids over the years, which, you can ask them how they feel about it. I think the 21-year-old has a different perspective than the 14-year-old probably right now, but I'd love to, actually, I was just telling the story the other day, Aedan, about, I can't remember if you told me or I think it was your dad told me, that there was a moment where, like, you were older, you were maybe 20, and you told him that when you were little, you used to sneak downstairs and watch the movies that your mom and dad were watching.
I would listen to it, yeah.
Oh, listen, yeah. And it's like, what a fun age it is to be old enough to go tell your parents the things that you did when you were little. But let me ask
Yeah.
you this: like, what would you say you learned about the gospel from not the things that your parents said, but what they did?
That's a good question.
Me or Kevin?
I'll start with you. I don't know Kevin's parents.
Oh man.
Well, I can start.
Well,
I'll say.
I don't
It's gonna
mind-
make me cry
I don't
thinking
mind
about it.
starting.
Okay.
I can answer first.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So with my parents, I mean, there's a ton of things I could say. But some of the biggest ones for me is the steadfastness and faithfulness of the Lord I have seen through my parents, not just in my life, but in the lives of their community and the people around them. They have been rocks that people have been able to depend on and turn to. And that doesn't mean that they don't have hard things that they have to go through and deal with, often because they are willing to be that faithful rock. That can burn you sometimes, but and it's also exhausting, But
their example was formative for you in that way.
Formative for me to understand what is behind the gospel, what is the heart of God the Father, And I think two other things that I'll say, and then I'd love to hear from you guys on this. But one is, they all tie together, but another is their unrelenting creativity to make my life full and possible. There's never a time that they were like, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. Like, we're just going to stay home. Or you're just going to have to put up with that,
Yeah.
It's like, and it wasn't spoiling. It was because of my sister and I and our needs and the way things work differently for us. They had to think creatively, and they have never given up on that, especially with progressive disease, that we have. The playing field changes almost on a daily basis. And so I've always said, if you want proof that there's a God, look at Peter and Diana Chandler being put together. Like, the Lord knew that combination is what my sister and I needed. Along with our older brother, Andrew, not Aedan's dad. But and then thirdly, I heard someone share recently, I was at a conference and the guy was speaking about the love of God and how he compared it to the love that he has for his kids, that he's like, I'm really proud of their accomplishments and I love seeing them succeed, but I love them. My favorite thing is just to be with them, and I love them just because they're my children. And I delight in just being in their presence. And that's how the Father is. And I've seen that with my parents, because there are a lot of things that my sister and I cannot do, and yet they delight in us, and not only that, but we make their lives pretty difficult at times. And yet they love us unconditionally. So those are some things I've learned about the gospel just from my parents' quiet actions behind the scenes.
That's awesome. Thanks, man. All right, Aedan.
I'm gonna try not to cry.
You can cry. It'll be
you
great
cry.
for the podcast.
Yeah,
Look or zoom in on the tears.
yeah. I mean, like, a constant refrain in my life is, like, I don't understand how it just, like, blows my mind how many people I'm surrounded by who have poured into my life and who have loved me in a Christ-like way. And when I think about my parents, just thinking about, like, there's never a moment where I did not know that I was loved by them and by God. And it's just a huge blessing. That they have given me that by God's grace. So it's a hard question to answer because of the just how
Enormity.
much enormity of it.
Yeah. No, that's good.
It is.
Yeah. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, your family, all of you, Aedan, have done a really good job of. I think the Lord has really gifted all of you, starting with your parents and now pouring down into you three, to really see people and invite them in with the love of Christ and and convey the kindness of Jesus through that invitation.
One of the wonderful things about growing up with friends and having kids together is getting to see other people do it.
Yeah.
Your parents have totally influenced us
Yeah.
with how they have loved you guys and other people. And your dad is a particularly gifted gatherer,
He is.
so it's also been nice to be around, have friends that have different gifts than you. You know,
Yeah.
so you celebrate. One of the best things a friend I feel like can do is to celebrate your gifts and forgive you for your faults.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's at the heart of all of my
Yeah.
deep, good friendships.